Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to all you guys who are new to our channel. We have here none other than Renuka with Channeling Spirit World. I shouldn't even have to say the link because it's always going to be in the description box, people. And today she's going to channel Professor Erik in her wonderful series with Professor Erik. And the topic today is drum roll, because I don't
the
know.
types the types of spiritual contract. He's already in the classroom, already in his setting, and he's already written on the board in big block letters types of spiritual contracts. He's saying, Mom, if you remember, first he's saying, Hi, I love you, Mom.
I love you. I was about to say that too.
Saying, Mom, we started restarted the Soul Plan series in our last lecture, and we finished our last lecture on the types of spiritual contracts, which I promised I'll be talking about in great detail in this lecture. And he's saying we'll be talking about the types of spiritual contracts. He's saying again, Mom, why am I doing this? I'll keep reiterating it in every lecture because I want our viewers to use this information, use this to understand their relationships better. 50% of our life is comprised of these relationships, and the quality of these relationships, Mom, it plays a great role in the quality of life and experiences that we are going. And like I've said, these relationships are only contracts.
Yeah, I can understand if you really understand the reason you're in certain relationships and the reason why you face so many challenges in any given relationship, then you don't suffer as much. You have an understanding.
I
So,
think
so that's why the information for one is so important.
He's saying, yes, Mom, you're right. And I've always said relationships come into our life, or we have chosen these spiritual contracts because we are here to learn and experience. We need a medium, right? We need somebody to teach us, to give us that experience.
Yeah.
So the purpose is learning and experiencing. But yes, what are we trying to learn? How are we trying to learn it? How easy it can get? It's important to understand all of that to reduce the not so good experiences that we have in our relationships. And uh, like as we move forward as humankind in our evolution, you will see relationships have gotten difficult and difficult, tougher and tougher,
Yeah.
because our lessons here, the choice of our lessons have become much more difficult. You see, relationships were not so complicated in our olden times, where people were simple, their lessons were simple, their interactions were simple, their expectations were simple, and that's why the dynamics were not so complicated in each of our relationships.
Now, society itself is just so complicated. I mean, communication from all over the world is so instantaneous, and we become global basically, and that of course complicates things. But go ahead.
You see, yes, Mom, you will see there's so much of miscommunication, so much of communication gap, even where social media is concerned. Something is meant to be communicated, and there are thousands watching you, and thousands, all of them are operating from a different level of consciousness, and
You.
all of them are receiving what their soul is wanting to receive at that point of time. It's so subjective. Not everyone receives whatever is given through a particular information on any social media platform. You think with us also, Mom, we'll be discussing so much of these esoteric concepts, so much of the Soul Plan series, but how much every viewer takes from it, how much every viewer understands and again applies to his or her life will be so much different, will be so much subjective.
True.
And I'm just hoping at whatever level the information that we are giving out is received, it it brings about a better kind of a positive outlook in their relationships. That's all we can hope for, and that's what we I'm intending through these lectures. So we are working on both the relationship aspect, which is of course the purpose of our life here. So it's working on both the levels. One, you will understand your relationships better, you will learn to deal with them. There will be less of pain and suffering, less of unpleasant experiences. better communication, better connection. And two, yes, we are working towards the basic essence of us being here, learning and experiencing. So you think before we go into the type of contracts, you think it's important to understand, like we discussed in our last lecture, it is nothing but learning and experiencing that we are trying to achieve by entering into these relationships. And because these relationships have been chosen by our souls, we have entered into these contracts in the spirit world, they have to come into our life. We will be pulled into those relationships even if we don't want. There are times, there are times you have sat for channeling sessions and people have asked, why am I in this relationship? Why did I even get into this relationship?
What was I thinking? Jesus.
He's saying the point is it was not in your hands. You had to get attracted. You had to get pulled into that dynamic because your soul chose. That itself says that all of it is planned. Most of it is planned. So much of it is in our hands and so much of it is not in our hands.
Yeah.
We plan these relationships, we plan these contracts, and once we are in the body, once you meet that soul, that activation, that memory activation, that memory gets activated in your soul.
Right.
Where you know that you know this soul, where you have to have more interaction, you have to have more meetings. It will so many times if you're not connected with your inner self, you will do it subconsciously. And that's when you get surprised and shocked of what was I thinking entering into this relationship.
Yeah.
But if you have a connection with your own self, you will definitely feel a connect and you will still get pulled into the relationship because you're connected with yourself. You're connected with that memory, which is suppressed, but it is there. And it will push you into that dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think one more important aspect, Mom, for these spiritual contracts are the emotions.
Yeah.
Because your soul wants to get into a spiritual contract, because your soul has planned that contract, your soul has reprogrammed certain emotions to get activated when you meet that particular soul. I think, Mom, it's also interesting to note you will also see them in your dreams even before you meet them in the physical.
Wow.
If you're I think if you're connected to your dream state, that has happened with me. That happened with me and Erik also.
Oh.
Yeah, I had seen a dream before I, chanced upon your blog that I have a best friend, and it was just more of a remembrance of an energy that I'm connecting with, communicating with in my dreams.
I did not know that. That is so cool.
Yeah, and it was just a memory, and there were just 2 or 3 dreams. And I used to ask my spirit guides. I used to do automatic writing with my spirit guides even at that point. And I used to ask them, "What is this energy, coming into my dreams? I know this soul, but I don't remember how this soul looks. But I remember the energy so well. I feel a very strong connect." And they said that soul, that energy is going to enter into your life and is going to stay in your life for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And he's going to be your friend, your guardian, your guide, everything. And I used to wonder, how is it even possible that some one energy can be so much? And at that point of time, I misunderstood it to be someone in the physical.
Wow.
Later,
That's
when
so cool.
later when I started communicating with Erik, and it was almost a year I have been talking to him, and he suddenly told me, "Don't you remember me? We met in your dreams before I came into your life."
Wow.
Oh my God, that was you. And yes, I remembered the connect, the energy, and it's the same that I used to, that even now I feel with Erik. So he's saying, Mom, it's very interesting. Your soul will try and give you hints. Your soul will try and, give you so many signs that this is meant to be.
Other than dreams, what are the other hints we might get, Erik?
So he's saying you will feel pulled towards a place that today I need to go to this place. You will pulled towards a friend who might be important in connecting you with that energy. It's just that you will get an intuition. I need to be at this place. I need to attend this event. I need to go and attend this class. You will just get those hints, and your soul will pull you to those places where these meetings are meant to happen. Anything, Mom, that will keep happening until you meet. If it's a major karmic contract, you will be pulled into those situations where you both end up meeting each other. And that's why we say it was a fated encounter, it was a chance meeting. There's never a chance meeting, it was always fated, he's saying.
Well, that reminds me of my own relationship with my husband. I used to go to Baytown, Texas, to when I was a resident in internal medicine to, surprise my grandparents and clean their house, just help them out and stuff. So one weekend I did that, and I loved going into their living room because I got these two lazy boys or whatever, these rockers, and it's all dark and the TV slightly on, and all you see is the cherries on their cigarettes getting brighter and brighter and then going away. So these two like red alien eyes. It's like, Nana, Papa, what are y'all doing? Smoking. So anyway, in the evening we were watching something unrelated to what I'm about to tell you, and all of a sudden I got into my mind, I need to learn how to fly, which is so uncharacteristic because I get so, not anymore so much, but air sick, that there have been times where I've had to be wheeled off in a wheelchair after everybody's been deplaned. So it's like, why? So anyway, I went back to Galveston, where I went to University of Texas Medical Branch, and opened the yellow pages, flight lessons or whatever, and it was Eddie's Flying Service or Galveston Air Center. Eddie's Flying Service didn't sound good. So anyway, I called and called and called. No, Galveston Air Center, nobody picked up. So that was when you could break through to the operator. And so I did. The operator, this is doctor or whatever. I want to see if this line is working, and it wasn't. So I had to get my ass out of the chair and go drive to Galveston Air Center. And that's when I met this tall, very handsome guy who was telling me all the things I would need to do. He assuaged my fears because I was so nervous, the books I'd have to buy, how much everything would cost. And I said, okay, sign me up now. And he said, oh, okay, good. There's your instructor. And he points to this scrawny little guy with red hair and could hardly speak English, had high water pants, clip-on ties. Oh God, he was poorer than a church mouse. He made $400 a month. But anyway, 6 months later, we were married. So that's the kind of thing you're talking about. I was pulled.
Yeah, exactly.
And furthermore, he, in Norway, raised in a little town with 800 people, was pulled to coming to America. I mean, I've seen pictures of him in his room, because he wanted to learn how to fly, with airplane models hanging from the ceiling, but a cowboy hat on and stuff. He was just fascinated by Texas, wanted to come to America, particularly Texas.
Wow.
And so boop, it happened.
Wow. Yeah, that's what he meant exactly.
Yeah.
You see? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how your soul pushes and pulls you into these spiritual contracts. He's saying, Mom, but you very well know how difficult these contracts can get.
Oh, yeah.
But in order to lure you into these contracts, these kind of meetings, these kind of attractions, these kind of initial feelings, intense initial feelings and emotions where you lose all sense and you just plunge into that relationship. And he's saying, I'm not only talking about romantic relationships or relationships which end up in marriage, even friendships, even soulmate relationships and connections where there is age difference, where there is cultural difference, and you just meet and you just connect because it was meant to be, it was chosen. And most of these contracts, these are the difficult ones, Mom.
Yeah.
And because these are the difficult ones, you will experience as much intensity in your emotions where you don't have a choice but to fall into that relationship.
Yeah.
You will not be able to run away. You will not be able to escape. So the initial emotions and feelings are almost programmed by your soul. So that because the soul and the spirit world knows, Mom, that you might try to run away. And he's saying there are times many people run away from their karmic contracts. At somewhere they know, they feel all the intense emotions, they feel the attraction, and yet they have this small voice saying run because it is going to get difficult. And you see so many are running away from commitment, from intense relationships. Wherever the emotions get intense, they run away. Again, Mom, it's that knowing that this is something which is going to make me go through You think shit, the pain, the suffering. So he's saying, it's all there in our soul. We just don't understand how this inner knowing is operating, and we tend to, misunderstand and don't understand the intention behind it, and we just go with the flow. But actually, what is happening is the memory of our planning in the spirit world is getting activated.
Yeah.
Every spiritual contract, mom, that we have to enter, if it's a major one, and I say major means the one which is meant to give you a huge learning experience, which is going to play a very important role in your growth. So when I say major, it's meant to teach you more or compared to other relationships. And because it is meant to teach you more, obviously it will make you suffer more. You think now you might say it's a very pessimistic approach when I say if you have to learn and experience in this world, it has to be through pain and suffering. He's saying, mom, that's the point.
Yeah.
If I had to learn through good experiences, why would I come down? The so-called good experiences are available in the spirit world where I'm in my original form. It's a world closest to the creator. These are all so-called positive, good feelings and experiences available over there. Why we only learn through pain and suffering in this world? Because this is the world which is offering pain and sufferings and teachings, learnings, and experiences through pain and suffering. Also, mom, if you understand in our body, something which has given us pain has more chance of teaching us.
Yeah.
Rather than
Look at failure, success. I've learned so much more from my failures than I have from my successes.
Yeah, I think, mom, human consciousness is so heavy. If you give lighter experiences like happiness, kindness, gentleness, joy, it will just lop it up, lap it up, and it will just release it. The experience is so short-lived. It's so light. You'll not even remember it. You will just experience
it's probably there so that we can tolerate the ugly. So
yes, it is. It is, but then you don't retain it. It's so light. You experience it, and you're so lost in that experience because it's such a beautiful experience, and you release it and you forget it. Pain and suffering, on the other hand, you hold on to it.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It matches your heavy consciousness in the body. You hold on to it, and because you hold on to it, you learn from it. You end up learning from it something or the other.
Yeah, I'm wondering if one way that we make sure that we don't run away, like, right, don't let the door hit you in the ass as you leave. That is parent and child relationship. I mean, there's a lot to be learned from the difficult relationship between a parent and a child. And you can't always just run away from that, whether you're on either side.
You think, yes, mom, and that's the contract. When you have been in different kind of relationships in different lifetimes and you have ran away from each other, finally you choose a parent and child relationship where even if you want to, you'll not be able to escape it.
Right.
Because the parents are the main gateway through which the soul enters this world. That connection cannot be severed, at least from the child side. From the parent side, mom, have you seen? Parents see their children as their own extension. There is so much of ego connection, with their children because they have given birth to the children. They arrive from their body, from their sperm, their DNA, and you have been an intrinsic part of your child's life for so long.
Yeah.
So there is an ego connection involved. There is a connection involved where you feel this particular individual is an extension of yourself. The existence of this individual is because you exist and you chose for this individual to exist. You see, now in that way, psychological and energetic connection is very strong.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to let go of that connection, whether you are a parent or a child.
Well,
because you're portals.
Yeah. One thing I've seen is there's so many parents who email me and talk to me about the angst they have about watching their child suffer, whether it's from addiction, whether they are arrested or in prison. It's like very, very difficult. But a lot of times we just need to be there with love and support and understand that they're going through this because they signed up for spiritual growth. Do you have anything to say about that, Erik?
I think, yes, mom, you have to understand in this contract, if a child is suffering, and if the parent soul has chosen a child who will go through this suffering, because obviously the lessons are connected to that suffering for the child soul,
Yeah.
the parent soul also has lessons to go through while seeing their child suffer so much, with whom they
So
are so
much.
much connected, so much attached. They have lessons of surrender, because obviously they feel helpless and there's so much less you can do in such situations. They have this lesson of letting go. They have this lesson of, being bystanders and doing nothing but watch,
And having faith and
and having
loving unconditionally and feeling
unconditionally,
compassion for your child.
unconditionally,
They can be
unconditional love
pain,
and
that sort of thing.
she's saying, Mom, whatever dynamic you choose in a relationship, lessons will go both the ways. Especially if the conditions are so extreme, if the emotions which are being invoked are so extreme, the lessons have to lie on both the sides. So if you're a soul who are wanting to learn these lessons, you will become that parent soul. And not only you're learning, but you're also facilitating the lesson for the child soul. So
Yeah.
you're helping each other, and that's what a spiritual contract is. That's what we have been discussing. But yes, the dynamic of a parent and child will be much more intense, which will be much more complicated also, because it's so intense. If it's on a positive side, it will be complicated. If it's on a negative side, it will be complicated. But either ways, both the parties will end up learning a lot from each other.
Yeah. And siblings, you can't get away from your siblings very often. It's not maybe as intense a relationship as, parent child, but the sibling relationship. Do you want to say anything about that, Erik?
He's saying, Mommy, it's one of a major karmic relationship, because you spend so much time with siblings. Again, just
Yeah.
like with your parents, you might physically separate from them, but you'll always feel a bond. They will always be family, because you see them as one of someone like you, a different branch of the same tree. He's
True.
saying, how much ever you run away from that connection, you will feel it in your heart, and you will keep coming back to that connection. But if you see, even nowadays, the sibling relationships have become so much complicated. There are so many differences, and they've also become very difficult. But still, what your brother or sister will be able to teach you, or the kind of emotions they'll be able to invoke in you, it won't be possible with a stranger or even a very, very good friend.
Yeah.
Yes, family connections will always be intense, but the parent child will always remain highest, and then the siblings,
Yeah.
and then comes your spouse. So
Yeah.
your spouse, even if it's not a blood relationship, you spend so much of your time with your spouse, not as much with your parents or your siblings. You're spending so much, most of your life, you are making most of your important decisions and choices with your chosen spouse. So
Yeah.
even they become as intense, even though they are not family, they are not blood connection, but because the amount of time that you spend with that soul in this bond called marriage, the intensity of the emotions that you feel alongside them, by living a life together, by making important and difficult choices, by bearing children together, they also become as much intense as siblings and parents. So he's saying we are actually, Mom, summing up major karmic relationships. These are parent and child, both the ways, siblings, both the ways, spouse, both the ways, and children, having your children, just like you were a child having a children, like I said, both the ways. All of these connections, Mom, are major karmic relationships, simply because you chose these souls, and you chose maximum amount of time to spend with these souls. Mom, it only means you had to learn most of your lessons and experiences from these souls. That's why you chose them into these major relationships, because this is where you spend most of the time. If
Yeah.
you choose a major lesson or an experience from a friend who does not have so much time with you, who have not chosen to relate with so much, who just gets separated from you after school or college, obviously you both don't have that much interaction to exchange that learning and experience. But with family, there is no getting out, there is no running away. You're always connected, even though you physically separate from each other.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So what about in the case of um, uh, spouses getting divorced? I mean, sometimes I've seen relationships, even in my own extended family, where there's a divorce because the contract is complete. One possibility is they brought a certain child into the world, or there could be other lessons that the spiritual contract has been honored. Of course, sometimes it's like, okay, they gave up way too soon. Lesson not learned. You're going to have to, learn it another way. So you want to speak to that?
He's saying, Mom, there are, again, when we discuss a certain karmic scenarios, and we're going to do that a lot, our future lectures will be all about, dissecting and discussing in great detail every karmic scenario. We're going to do that in great detail. But for now, to answer you, if it's divorce, Mom, we have to understand there will be always two aspects to a decision. Was it chosen at a soul level? Was it not chosen at a soul level? At a soul level, yes, you do choose divorce where you feel, oh, this is the learning and experiencing. Once we are done with it, we'll go our separate ways and then, maybe meet someone else and continue our learning and experience in that particular contract.
Okay.
So if it's chosen, yes, it will happen. Also, when it is happening, it's very important that the lessons and experiences that you all were meant to exchange have been done with. They shouldn't be left incomplete. Also, you will see, Mom, there are times when people are trying to divorce each other, but it doesn't happen. There's so many complications. One person will get very stubborn. There will be unreasonable demands made. There will be fights about the custody. What is happening, Mom, is the divorce is not happening, but the lessons and experiences are continuing. So you do give yourself a restriction condition also, that if we try to run away from each other once we are in the body, and if we go for divorce, we will put in conditions where no matter how much we try, the divorce won't happen. And that's why you put in those restrictions conditions also. But he's saying, Mom, again, it's free will and you will definitely make choices which you didn't choose at the soul level. And then there is no loss. Maybe something that you didn't learn and experience this time, it will go into your karmic account and you will do it the next time. But respecting the contract the first time around, it makes things quite easier. If you leave it unfulfilled, you have to understand, Mom, we chose this level of difficulty and we chose to learn at this level. Now, at this level, we tend to run away. Now, next time when we come in, we cannot operate on the same level of difficulty. It has to be a higher level of difficulty, because at this level of difficulty, we ran away. This is not working. So we have to raise the level of difficulty. That's why I say, face your situations, face your relationships. Don't run away from experiences. Don't run away from relationships. Don't run away from intense experiences, intense learning experiences. Because if you run away today, your next life, nobody is forcing you or punishing your next life. You yourself are accountable to your learning, and you yourself will make it a higher difficult learning experience so that you don't run away next time around.
For example, maybe you have a difficult relationship with a child, or it could be anybody, and you ran away, but then this next time you come in and the child, maybe it was a husband before, whatever, is so handicapped that you really can't get
run away.
Example?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, right, Mom. You will choose a situation where you will not run away, and that's why the difficulty level will be so much higher.
Yeah.
So it's always better to learn it the first time around.
God, yeah.
Because you're so much accountable to yourself in the spirit world when you are the soul. You know, this is not going to work with me because it didn't work the last time, and I have to raise the bar for me to make sure that I learn. And he's saying that's why when people sit across our channeling sessions and they say, oh, I want to get out of this relationship, oh, I want to divorce this person, I want to break up with my partner. And he says, if the lessons are learned, he says, yes, go ahead. And if the lessons are not learned, he says, no, stay. And I keep asking him why your advice is different for everybody sitting across for their sessions. He says, because it's depending on their soul plan and their lessons. Are their lessons done? If their lessons are done, why would I want them to suffer more? That's why I tell them, you are free to go. Please go.
Yeah.
And this is how soul plan sessions work. They are so enlightening. They are so liberating, because something that in your heart, it's being confirmed by him. And if it's too difficult, there is an end to it. If you learn this, you'll be able to come out of it. And just by getting into awareness that this is the lesson, half the job is done. so many times we are not aware what is it that the opposite person is trying to teach us.
Yeah. Is it cheating to ask through a medium?
Yes.
It's cheating?
He's saying, Mom, we will never cheat. We are operating from a higher consciousness,
I mean,
even though you are in the body.
can
Like,
people?
even if you are in the body, if someone asks us, I am going to share and reveal how much ever it is going to help their journey, not block their journey. So
Yeah,
it's not cheating because I'm not going to reveal the information which will become a block in their learning.
I got
Only
you. Okay.
something, only something which will encourage them to learn. And there are no judgments, no matter what.
No,
He is
of course not.
saying, I only aim and intend to explain the contract, what is happening at a spiritual level, why the opposite person is acting in such a way, what is it that your soul is trying to learn, how will you learn that lesson better, how do you learn it, and when have you actually learned it? Because Mom, many times we have learned the lesson and we continue to beat us up, judge ourselves, and not believe in ourselves, and continue the suffering in the relationship. I think that's also very common because we have so much of self-worth issues going on.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's why I think that's the reason I have started these lectures, I have started these soul plan series, because there should be more light thrown on these topics, more understanding of the reason and the purpose behind our suffering. When we understand the reason behind our suffering, it becomes so much easier, it
Yeah.
becomes so much worth it. Otherwise it's so easy to fall into a victim based mentality where
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, you feel like you're just a pawn on the chessboard. But if you kind of know that you're here to learn something, then you're going to be the
you
chess
take your
player.
power back.
You're
Yeah,
the
you
chess
take your
player.
power back.
Yes, yes, it's so much more tolerable. All right, what about this the subject of estrangement, Eric? Because I hear so many via email and the radio show these lies of people who said, my own child will not talk to me, and a lot of times it's other family members that have created this estrangement, or siblings. Like in the case of me and one of my sisters, she convinced my father to only give her everything. And so, we tried to keep up a relationship, but it was too painful. And so we're estranged now, except for us say happy birthday and things like that. So what can you say about estrangement as a spiritual lesson, or is it running away? I
Most of
want
the
to learn
time.
about betrayal and forgiveness in that instance. And, I have
Yeah.
forgiven her, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
I think, Mom, most of the times in these instances, yes, it's more of running away because a spiritual contract has become much more difficult and you don't know how to learn from it or how to deal with it. But it is happening also. There's one more reason where people don't have discernment. They get too influenced by someone who is very powerful psychologically.
Oh yeah. It's don't talk to your sister. I'm the good sister. That kind of thing.
Yes, yes. And if you don't have discernment, if you have not understood how to recognize people and their true intentions, you get so much influence that you give up on such beautiful spiritual contracts. And not always these contracts are going to be the difficult ones. Maybe they were the good ones who were meant to support you, were meant to be there for you, were meant to give you a lot of love. And yet you run away from these contracts because your soul has yet not learned how to discern who is trying to influence you in what way. And I think that's a major lesson for so many of us, Mom. We get influenced by people so easily. We don't bring in our discernment, we don't bring in our intellect and try and understand where this person is coming from and what is good for me, what is not so good for me. So that's where we create karma, where we create a new lesson of discernment. If we get influenced and if we run away from a spiritual contract, that's one reason. And the major reason is where you feel it's too difficult and you run away from it. And that's where you this estrangement comes into the picture. But also, Mom, there's an aspect where you someone is estranging from you because you chose it. You chose that estrangement because you wanted to learn to let go. You wanted to,
Oh,
because letting go is a major lesson, Mom. It's a very difficult lesson. And
it's one of the most difficult. Forgiveness and surrender, and a lot of times those two are related. or intertwined in a very complicated way.
And you say, Mom, it'll be easier to let go a friend or a stranger, but to let go of such an important major relationship, obviously it needs a lot of work and a lot of learning. And that's why a major relationship, when you experience estrangement in that, it will teach you so much. So you will not choose to get estranged from a stranger or a friend. You will you choose estrangement from a very close relationship, so that it makes you feel so much sadness, so much helplessness, where you learn to let go. So you think at times it's chosen, but most of the times it's not chosen.
Well, one thing I've seen kind of recently is where one person takes care of a very disabled parent, toward the end of their life. And after that person dies, all the other siblings come flocking in like vultures, and they actually kick the caretaker out. You don't get the property. You don't get anything, blah, blah, blah. It's horrible. And then sometimes the other parent is still alive. Maybe they have dementia, and they also get convinced to go along with this, to completely abandon the person that was there for sometimes a decade or more to take care of the...
Even I've seen that a lot. You see, Mom, you see what's happening. The caretaker is not respecting his or her boundaries, and that person is giving more compared to the other siblings. The other siblings are also meant to provide equal care, right? Now, this person who is the caretaker has broken the boundaries and is giving more than he or she is supposed to give.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't help it. In my instance, I was the only one in Houston able to take care of my parents. And it was that's what changing philosophy about. But one sister was in Arkansas, one was in California, and they can't sit there and leave their entire lives and their livelihood to take care of, to move to Houston and take care of them.
Yes. So you see, Mom, if you remember last lecture, we discussed about a type of spiritual contract where you are a giver and you will never receive anything.
Yeah.
Kind of a contract where you only give. You have chosen to only give and not receive anything.
Why? Because what about the receiving the satisfaction of doing something loving? I mean, there's a huge that's a huge perk in my case.
Yes. But Mom, have you noticed how many beautiful lessons you learned? You learn to let go of your expectations. You learn to become unconditional in your care, in your support, in your love, which your other siblings have not learned. So in these kind of spiritual contracts where you are the giver and you are the giver where you are not receiving anything, that's why you're the giver. There will be no receiving. These people have got lots to learn where boundaries are concerned. Because maybe in your past lifetimes, you only given, and you have not received, and that has disappointed you and has hurt your soul so much that in this lifetime you chose that you will give, you will experience that hurt. And next time around, you will be very sure with your boundaries, where you will not go beyond your boundaries and you will give in a very balanced way. And you will stop giving when you are not receiving. You will stop giving when you're not receiving. So this won't happen in your next lifetimes. But also, Mom, there are also scenarios where the soul that you're giving to, that soul has helped you and given you a lot in a particular lifetime. And you're just promising and just giving it back. So it's really not about the other factors or other relationships that come into the picture. It can be only between you and the soul you were giving to. It could be your soul trying to learn unconditional giving, unconditional support, and unconditional love. You see, Mom, there are so many aspects and scenarios. Now, you might not understand the reason and these scenarios and connect them with your life experience here in your physical reality. But what matters is, whenever something is hurting you, giving you pain, whenever there is an uncomfortable emotion, which is being invoked in you because of a situation or because of other relationships in your life, you have to come back to what is your soul trying to learn.
Right.
If you take away a learning, if you take away an experience from whatever you have been through, no matter how difficult it was, no matter how painful it was, you win, Mom. You win. And that's all that matters.
I'm looking up something because I found out something quite interesting about I've got so much talent on both sides of my family that's incredible. Like Jose Antonio Barraquer was father of ophthalmology. But I found out something interesting. Luis Barraquer Roviralta, who was a relative, born in he was in the 1850s or something, was the father of clinical neurology in Spain. Started the first. He was the first to divorce neurology from psychiatry. They used to practice together, but he said, I want it to be pure. And of course, that means he made a lot less money, but he didn't care. And he was the first one. He discovered something called the Barraquer-Simmons disorder, which all neurologists know about. I told my daughter, who is a neurology resident, if you're attending, and see if they know about that, or the Barraquer reflex, grasp reflex. But anyway, so here's the deal. He started the first department of neurology in Spain, first, developed clinical neurology, and he wrote lots of papers, and he was good friends with Charcot, the actual father of neurology. But when he retired, he liked the simple life. He wanted to be in the country, and it sounds like I'm him reincarnated. But guess what happened? Even though he had such a wonderful life, the tragedy of his ex-wife murdering all of his children and his current life just took it all away. That betrayal. I didn't know I had those skeletons in my closet, people. God, it's like, and now next on Oprah, what? I'm shocked. God.
Mom, these are very rare occurrences and cases where a person completely, oh wow.
And his son and grandson, oh my God, they look like my father, also were very well-known neurologists. But anyway, go ahead.
Wow. You see, Mom, such occurrences are very rare, and mostly they are not planned. They are happening because people lose their mental balance.
Yeah.
Their experiences, because they are not walking the path, they're not walking as per their soul plan, their experiences in their entire life become so much extreme. Again, their nervous system, their mind, it's not able to take it. And there are cross connections, and there are short circuits, and their mental. I think that's when, and most of it is not planned. I think here it was not planned.
Wow, interesting.
It's too extreme. And I think, Mom, but what matters is in your body, while you're still in the body and you're going through certain extreme situations and experiences, you're going through that pain, that suffering. But as soon as you're out of the body and you're a soul, and all the information comes flooding back to your consciousness, and you realize, oh my God, this was my plan. This was my plan. This was like a dream. You get out of a dream, and all the lessons come back to you. All that is assimilated, that pain and that suffering that give you so much of experience, that is assimilated back into your consciousness, and your consciousness expands. It's all worth it at that moment. And that's all that matters, because it was a play.
Yeah, that's right. We're all in a play. Yeah. Sometimes it's a horror film, but whatever. Sometimes it's a rom-com. I want my next one to be a rom-com, frankly speaking.
Interesting.
So, anything else you want to talk about, Erik, before we close and talk about our next upcoming?
Yeah, anything, Mom? We are going to talk about the types of spiritual contracts in much more detail. We spoke most of it, a lot of aspects about them, but I will go in a very detailed step-by-step way on how to understand what kind of spiritual contract we are in, how to understand what are the roles we are given. Are we a learner? Are we a teacher? Or are we both? And then also to understand what are the lessons, how to recognize the lessons our soul is trying to learn.
Love it.
So we're going to go step by step, and we're going to understand all of these processes and details. And it will be a fun interaction session where once I have taught all of this, I'll interact with our viewers in the comments, and I will guide them and confirm whatever they have learned from the series after they have applied to their relationships in their life.
Cool. You got anything else going on, Renuka, at all? Any new things coming up?
Yeah, I'm adding few services to my website in coming few weeks, which will be more towards the Soul Plan series, which will be more towards understanding your difficult relationships that you're going through right now. What are the lessons? Should you stay in that relationship? Should you leave? And if you leave, what should be the right time? Have you actually learned your lesson? is the spiritual contract balanced and respected so that it's complete and closed? I'm going to put up these few services which are going to bring in more clarity in people's lives and
Oh,
make
that's
it.
going to be so helpful. Wow. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you. And you guys check her out, Channeling Spirit Doc World. It's in the description box, and it will always be for all of these sessions. Thank you, Professor Erik. I love you. I miss you. I love you, Renuka, and I love all of you guys out there. Mama Bear loves you. So, yeah, be sure you subscribe to this channel and the Atlanta Scalar channel and my TikTok and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to expand my social media knowledge, and it's like old lady alert. It's not easy. All right. Bye, guys. Love you.